The New Orleans Saints were obviously a very big wild card heading into this year, as opinions on them really varied from person to person. However, the Saints, they would open up the year with a massive statement win versus the Green Bay Packers, blowing them out 38-3. In the following week, they would fall to the division rival Carolina Panthers in a really ugly 26-7 loss. However, I still believe that the New Orleans Saints are still a very good team, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about the Saints and why they can still win like 10 to 11 games and still be a very good team. Before this video does get started, I do want to say go ahead and check on my podcast if you guys haven't already. The link to it is in the description below, and I will be uploading on there more frequently, so it would mean a lot to me if you guys could go ahead and check it out. But without further ado, let's get this video started. Now in 2020, New Orleans would go 13-3 and they would claim the NFC South title. However, their season would end in the divisional round as they would fall to the eventual Super Bowl champions in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the offseason would see a lot of key pieces depart from the team. Drew Brees, obviously the big one here, he would end up hanging it up and he would call it a career and he would officially retire from the NFL. And this created a lot of uncertainty at the quarterback spot, and that was really where the issues and really just the question marks with the New Orleans Saints really arose from. Their two options would be either Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. Taysom Hill, he would start a few games for the Saints in 2020, and while he did have his good moments, he also did have some bad moments, and it was pretty clear that the Saints were very limited with Taysom Hill as their quarterback. And let's be honest here, he's way more of a gadget player than a true quarterback. Jameis Winston, on the other hand, while he was more of a true quarterback, he definitely had his downsides. The last time he started an NFL season, it was super odd. He did toss over 5,000 yards and 30 passing touchdowns. However, he would toss a record 30 interceptions, and that made him a super up and down player. You either got a very good player or one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. I mean, it really just depended. The point is, Jameis Winston was a super up and down quarterback, and along with that, they had to say goodbye to edge rusher Trey Hendrickson in free agency, and they had to also say goodbye to cornerback Janoris Jenkins and wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders as well, due to a very murky cap situation. And of course, these losses really made the Saints such a confusing team, and such a team that not everyone could really agree on, as I said before. However, I predicted that the New Orleans Saints would go 10-7, as before the season started, I still believe they were a good team. I mean, for one, they really had most of the key pieces from that 2020 team. They're still a very good team, alright? They still got talent, and they are still very, very balanced. On offense, they obviously got Alvin Kamara, who is one of the best running backs in the NFL. Very good at running the ball, and of course, one of the best pass-catching backs in the entire league. And personally, I think he's going to have an Offensive Player of the Year caliber season in 2021, and he could possibly take that award home. And honestly, I would not be surprised if he does, and I believe he was my pick to win it. Anyways, the wide receiving core, I'll admit, outside of Michael Thomas, it is not amazing. Now, speaking of Michael Thomas, we'll talk about him a little bit. Michael Thomas, he's one of the best receivers in the league. There's no way to put it. Now, last year in 2020, he didn't play a whole lot of games, and because of that, he didn't have his best career season. However, and while he will miss 6 to 7 games this year, I still think when he comes back, I think he's going to remind the league just how good he is. Now, if you hate Michael Thomas, that's understandable. The guy can be a little bit of a tool as a person, but Michael Thomas is one of the best receivers in the NFL. When he comes back, Jameis Winston, oh boy, he's going to have a lot of fun with Michael Thomas. The guys outside of him, as I said before, they are not the best. However, I do think Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith could definitely break out, and they are not bad players at all. And considering the fact that Jameis Winston is a gunslinger, I think he will have a nice connection with Marquez Callaway. It looked like that in the preseason, and Marquez Callaway had a pretty nice performance versus the Green Bay Packers. So, I mean, if one of those guys could break out, that would be awesome. And along with that, I could see someone like Juwan Johnson or Adam Trotman or even Deontay Harris break out as well, because Jameis Winston, I will say this thing about him, he is very good at elevating his teammates. I mean, if someone, relatively unknown broke out, I wouldn't be surprised, because, again, Jameis Winston, he's very good at elevating his teammates. And along with that, the New Orleans Saints, they're still very good at protecting their quarterback, and they still got a pretty good offensive line, led by offensive tackles Ryan Ramczyk and Teron Armstead. And defensively, they're still very good. Their front seven, it's very good, as he said. as I said before, as they got edge rusher Cameron Jordan, who, while he is declining getting up there in age, admittedly, Cameron Jordan is still one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. Marcus Davenport, he was also not that bad versus the Green Bay Packers, and he is in a make or break season, so they will need him to produce. And I mean, if he does produce and has his best season yet and has like over 7 or 8 sacks, that would be awesome. And along with that, David Onyemata, while he is suspended like 6 games, David Onyemata last year had a career year, and if he can keep that up, again, that would be awesome. Plus, Demario Davis, he is one of the best linebackers in the NFL, so this is a very stout front 7, and the secondary is also very good. Marshawn Lattimore, he is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and CJ Gardner-Johnson is also a very good player as well, and of course, Marcus Williams, he's also not that bad. Now, also, we gotta give a shout out to Sean Payton. Look, I'm not the biggest Sean Payton fan out there, however, Sean Payton, he is one of the best head coaches in the NFL, and he's one of the best offensive mind of all time. All right, to put it simply, Sean Payton, one of the greatest coaches of all time, and still one of the best coaches, and I think he will keep this team competitive, and I think he will be a big reason why this team still wins at least 7 or 8 games. Now, let's talk about Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, I'd have to say, it definitely looks like he has improved for the most part. Now, I know Carolina was ugly, and I think that, I know that Carolina game is going to be one reason why a lot of people are going to be doubting the New Orleans Saints. However, a lot of people need to understand that it is just one game, and people will have their bad games, and teams, they will lose games. However, we should not overreact, and I know we are pretty early into the year, so I mean, there will be overreactions. However, even though that loss was very ugly, I do think the New Orleans Saints will get back to, you know, playing good football. And I mean, Sean Payton, I think, is a big part of it, because again, he's a very good coach, and I don't think the Saints will continue that. They looked very good versus the Green Bay Packers, and even though that Carolina Panthers game was very ugly, I mean, if you can beat the Green Bay Packers, I mean, I think you still got some hope left. And I have to say, that 30 interception season that Jameis Winston had, it wasn't all on him. People gotta realize that Jameis, I mean, we all do interceptions. I mean, first off, interceptions aren't always going to be the quarterback's fault. Sometimes you got batted passes or just good plays from defensive players and all. Like, you know, there are a lot of factors going into interceptions. Yeah, there were interceptions that were his fault, but there were some that really were not his fault. And we also got to talk about Bruce Arians' offensive system and the Buccaneers teams he had. All right, Jameis Winston never had, you know, the best teams around him in Tampa Bay. Like, the offensive lines he had were very shaky, and along with that, Bruce Arians had a very aggressive offensive system that, you know, the famous saying, no risk it, no, I don't know okay, I forgot, but, you know, he has a very aggressive offensive system. That's really what I'm trying to get at here, and that's a big reason why Jameis Winston threw so many interceptions, because he also has he had a big turnover issue, even at Florida State. Like, Jameis Winston, a very aggressive quarterback, he likes to throw the ball downfield, and that was a big reason why he had so many interceptions. Sean Payton, on the other hand, this guy, I will admit, I mean, he isn't as aggressive when it comes to pushing the ball downfield. However, I have to say, like, he's a very smart player, and I think he will help Jameis Winston, you know, not throw many interceptions just by his offensive system. And I do believe Jameis Winston has improved as a player. Of course, he had his bad, as I said before, he did have his bad moments versus Carolina, but also Jameis, I mean, when you watch that Packers game, he looked like a much improved quarterback. I remember there's this one play, it wasn't a completion, but it was still a very nice play. You'd like to see that just showed the progress he made, you know. Jameis, so basically, like, he went through all of his reads, nothing was open, he had all day to throw, and he just threw the ball away. And I mean, it was such a good play because it showed just, you know, the progress he made as a player. We all know the old Jameis Winston most likely would have tried to throw it into a tight window and tried to, you know, would have just tried to make like some crazy play that most likely would have resulted in an interception. And I do know he had some bad moments in Carolina, but again, it's just one game, and I do think Jameis Winston will have a good season. Now, I don't think he will have like an MVP caliber year, I don't know about that, but I still think he's going to be very good. Now, hopefully, the New Orleans Saints don't let me down, and hopefully they don't beat my New England Patriots, and hopefully it's just an absolute shootout in which they do play kind of good, but they do eventually lose. But the point is, I mean, the New Orleans Saints, I think they're still a very good team, and they could definitely give some contenders a scare, and honestly, watch out for them. But without that being said, that will be the end of today's video. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, as it really helps out the channel, and also make sure to subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy this type of content, so you don't miss out on any new videos like this. Plus, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and once we hit our goal, I am finally going to do a face reveal. But with that being said, I'm out, you guys.